Alright, here with the Italian sports guys. Bada-Boom!
Bada-Bing!
And you're here with the Brian Scheckstein State Farm Game Day Recap. And we're looking back, of course, Kyle, at the Saints and LSU from last week. About as dynamic a 1-2 punch of games, Saints and LSU, at any weekend I can remember.
You know, you're always anticipating football season in the first week of the NFL season and the second week for college for Louisiana sports fans. Sure as heck did not disappoint.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Fantastic.
Two great finishes.
Starting with our beloved Saints, of course, and an exciting win. I mean, Drew Brees showed you everything that makes him Drew Brees in this win, of course. Defense giving up a big play late, but Drew, again, it's only 3-play drive just to get them in some kind of a shot to hit that field goal. We knew Will Lutz had to late.
Yeah, you know, when Will Lutz misses a field goal the last few years he's been with us, he usually goes on this run of consecutive field goals without a miss. So maybe that 56-yarder that we barely missed at the end of the first half helped out in the long run. But tremendous poise by number 9, some clutch catches. They worked the 2-minute offense or the 37-second offense to perfection to get in range, and Thunder Leg Lutz sure as hell crushed one from 58 and game, set, match Saints.
Yeah, fantastic. And looking kind of big picture at the game, obviously, Alvin Kamara was a little slow start early in the first half, but boy, 3 big plays in the second half, running plays, 2 running and 1 passing to set up some drives for the Saints. And, of course, once again, as much as you say we'd like to diversify away from Mike Thomas, 10 catches and 100 yards again.
You know, you put it in his catch radius, and it's his. It's his and it's no one else's, and he's proven that since he's been here. And as far as Kamara goes, there are tackles he breaks that seem to defy the laws of physics.
His balance
is incredible. It truly is, so.
Yeah, and the offensive line was fantastic. I mean, we graded out the top offensive line according to Pro Football Focus last week. Even the rookie McCoy, again, looks fantastic. Again, it seems to be a solid pick and confirms that every time you watch this kid play. On the offensive side, you know, you wonder how, when the defense knows you're going to Mike Thomas and Alvin Kamara, but these guys are so dynamic in space.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing is you can almost challenge the defense to say, here's what we're doing. We're showing you know what we're doing. You know where we're going. They still have to stop it.
Yeah.
And it's the most accurate passer in the history of the game, and a guy who's got hands of glue.
Yeah.
And just gets open and not open by a lot.
Yeah.
But he puts it where either we catch it or no one else does. So tremendous.
Yeah. In the first half, of course, we found ourselves in a big deficit of 11 points, and it really came down to the Saints moved the ball pretty well in the first half.
Right.
Really just couldn't convert. I mean, we had, of course, a missed field goal, and an interception in the red zone, kind of rare for Drew. You can nitpick on the offense. Tough to find some fault here. I would say number one, Drew's arm strength is going to continue to be a question mark. Now, we saw, based on what he did in crunch time, we'd rather have a 70% arm Drew Brees than any other quarterback in the league. But, again, on the long ball late in the game, a big conversion on third down. Still a little bit underthrown, had to wait for the ball soon.
Yeah, someone sitting next to me said, why aren't they throwing the ball down the field? The next pass, he zipped one down the sidelines to Jared Cook. But my answer was, because he can't. Yeah. And then he does. So, look, he's not going to 65 yard you on the money down the sidelines and just have you outrun a defender to catch it. That's not what this offense is. That's not what it's about. That's why Sean Payton has focused on receivers more or less with size and reliable hands and guys who know how to run precise routes. You coach the players that you have. That's what it's all about. That's what good coaching is. You don't try and fit the square peg into the round hole. Look, the next quarterback might be able to throw the ball 90 yards, and if Sean Payton's still a head coach, then, we might be running 2 speed burners down the sidelines and another one down the middle. Right. It's not what we are. Yeah. But we do what we do as well as anybody does what they do in the NFL.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
You do what you do.
You do what you do.
Yeah, and I was watching the Brian Baldinger breakdown of the film with the footage of the offensive line on that particular play, the long ball again. Just fantastic again. Just passing off stunts to other guys, just really, really working as a coordinated team. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, a lot more concern on that side, Kyle. I'll start with our run defense, 180 yards and 7.8 yards a carry. Now, let's not hit the panic button. We know we get some guys back on Yamada this week in Rankins, but that was not a good look.
It's not, but you look across the league and there's sloppy tackling throughout. And part of that has to do with the collective bargaining agreement that doesn't allow for contact at certain parts of training camp, no two-a-days. So you can do all the drills you want until you see the live action. Yeah. It's going to be an issue early on. What they say now is September has become the new August. It's almost like an extension of preseason with some of the defenses rolling into form. Look, last year and the year before, the first 2 games of the year, the defense was pretty sloppy. Yeah. But in last year's game 2, we were losing to Cleveland Browns until Marcus Williams came up with a big pick. Yeah. Again, the big momentum shift in this game on the defensive side of the ball was that deep post route that Marcus Williams came over from center field and picked off. So.
Yeah, again, we're looking at the defense. The other ugly issue here was 7 of 13 on third down for the Texans and 1 of fourth down. So
one of the problems I thought on that, I thought that here we are, Texas is inside our 30-yard line. it might be 3rd and 12, 3rd and 16. At one point, we got a sack on Deshaun Watson, 3rd and long, and we're lining up way back.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're giving that cushion, and to me, that's not the way to play that. They're not going to blow by you deep. They're at the 30-yard line,
right.
Okay? They're not going to run by you on a 50-yard post route, or they'd be in the stands.
Yeah, right.
So,
that's why when you
I think
that's why
some
it's
of
hard.
that was kind of silly. But in the first half, we lost 3rd down on both sides of the ball regularly, and we were trailing at the half because of it.
Yeah, look at it. And you mentioned Marcus Williams. That was a big turning point in this ball game because we were down 11, cut it to 4, then down 11 again. And you felt like, you can't just trade blows with these guys when you're down 11 points. You got to come up with a turnover, and that's what they did. They scored a touchdown. He got the pick, and we scored again. So
flipped the game.
Let's flip the game around so big. But he did make a mistake. We talked about this a little bit offline. There were a couple of plays here. Number one, the deep ball to Will Fuller early, where a safety jumps to underneath the tight end route, 10 yards down the field, and they throw 50 yards over his head. And once again, on that play, the first play, that 2-play drive to score a touchdown, Marcus Williams, he breaks inside when he's got to be, helping out the guy on the outside with DeAndre Hopkins. And again, 2 mental mistakes that caused big plays.
We're playing too deep at that point. Right. And Marcus Williams has the deep right half of the field. Right. What his back is to the sidelines for, I have no idea. Why his back is to the sidelines about. I think Deshaun Watson gave one look to his right, to Williams' left, and he completely turned around. Yeah. And he left the corner one-on-one with one of the best receivers in the league, and perfect pass, perfect throw. But you've got to be backpedaling and then opening your hips and going to that side of the field. Yeah. Once he the quarterback makes that move. So I thought that was fundamentally played completely wrong, and so did some other people that broke it down. So
a little quick shout out to Deuce Wyndham on The Athletic, who breaks down X's and O's, sent me those 3 picks, just breaking down that one play at 3 different stages: pre-snap, middle, and then toward the end of the play. So great breakdown there. Yeah, you mentioned, hopefully, we look back, of course, the experience. Last year, the Tampa Bay game was really ugly, maybe cleaned up some mental and physical mistakes after that game. So hopefully you'll see more of that. As you mentioned, defense is kind of getting back up to speed.
I think you saw, what I've noticed about this Saints defense a lot in the last couple of years is that they're not great on the first and second series. Yeah. And then early in the season, they're not great in the first and second games. Yeah. But you'll see Dennis Allen. I don't know if it's a Dennis Allen adjustment or players figure something out. But by about middle of the first quarter, early second, this is when this Saints defense, if they have the dominant runs during the game, it usually starts right around there. Yeah. So, and again, you're missing David Onyemata, you're missing Sheldon Rankins, you're playing with a couple of new guys. So there's a lot of room for improvement there, but it is an area of concern, at least after week 1. So.
Yeah. One of the concerns I thought I had during the game was, we saw Trey Henderson come in and take over at times for Marcus Davenport, and we're wondering if he's going to be the player we hoped he would. But I did, again, watch some guys who break down film say he did some things that didn't show up in the stat sheet. He did a nice job on some of the stunts of bringing guys inside and holding up those blockers so they couldn't get to the rush guy. But I'll give you the rest of your thoughts on defense, Kyle. I'm wondering if these defensive backs, we talk about the depth we have that we haven't had in the past, but I'm wondering if we have a depth of a lot of really mediocre defensive backs, because we got beat a good bit on this game.
We don't have a slot corner, nickelback yet, whatever you want to call it. I think P.J. Williams on that last touchdown. Look, we always complain as fans, what are we doing in the prevent defense? Yeah. What are we doing in the prevent defense? Well, the Saints were not in the prevent defense on that touchdown to Kenny Stills, and thank goodness we weren't, because they might have scored with 12 seconds left instead of 37. That's football. That's how that all works out. Yeah. But for you to get beat on a post route by a guy who's been in camp with the Texans for about a week and a half is inexcusable. You have to not let him get behind you, and P.J. Williams did. So, again, a lot of area of concern, a lot of areas to work on, but I think this is league-wide, too. It's such a passing league now. How many good DBs are out there? So, P.J. Williams is a hot and cold player. He's always been up and down, and was getting drummed last year in the Minnesota game on a Monday night, and then came up with an INT and a forced fumble and changed the scope of that game. So he didn't have a great game on Monday night, but he's got some, he'll contribute down the road. He will.
Yeah, and it's a lot more fun to clean up these mistakes after a big win like this versus having to do it after a loss. I mean,
absolutely.
Certainly. And you mentioned that 2-play drive. I mean, to me, that wasn't the egregious error, because once they get into the 35-yard line after one play, you might as well go for broke, right? You run the blitz at them and pray for the best. If they either score a touchdown, you got time, or you get a big sack or something. The egregious play was the first one, because you can't let the guy get out of bounds and that far down the field and get behind a safety.
You look at 2 plays again, and look, we give Marcus Williams credit for the game play that changed the game, really momentum-wise. Yeah. But we're also going to break it down. Yeah, and look, not only did he fundamentally turn the wrong way and have his back to the sidelines on the half of the field that he was covering, which is inexcusable, on the Deshaun Watson touchdown run, he whiffed again. Yeah, right. I think he puts his head down when he goes to make contact. There's some type of look, when the ball's in the air, and he's playing center field,
he
is a Darren Sharper-like talent.
Yeah, and speed.
Okay?
Yeah, speed.
Speed. He knows how to do it. He's very natural. It's very natural for him.
Yeah.
But he is not a natural tackler. I think he continues to drop his head and takes one false step at the end and gets beat a lot of times.
Yeah.
So that's something that he's going to have to fix because, quite frankly, he can't cost us any more games.
Doesn't get any easier against the Rams, right? I want to mention very quickly on that 3-play drive also, a lot of people bashing Romeo Crennel, defensive coordinator, for the way he played those last 3 plays. Look, let me tell you, this is Drew Brees at his best. I mean, There's a lot of quarterbacks don't make those throws. The first 2 plays, he had to anticipate. He had guys in coverage, which we know in traffic, he had to anticipate the throws, especially on a again play down the field.
Right.
The other one to Michael Thomas, he looks off the guy to the sidelines toward Kamara
and barely
fits it into a window.
Goodness.
That's right, fits it into a window. On the last play, again, the guy was too soft on Ginn, but there's 4 other guys playing tight press coverage, and Drew Brees finds the one guy he needed to go to. So give some credit to the guy on the other side of the ball.
Absolutely. Look, you're playing one of the all-time greats.
Right,
I'm going to read the stat sheet. He has the most yards and the highest completion percentage in league history for a reason.
Yeah, right.
Okay? And this offense is precision. You give the Saints offense problems when you mess with their precision.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not jamming this receiver. You mess with their precision.
Yeah.
Okay? And so when you have a veteran offense that's played together for a long time, we talked about this during the roster finalization.
Yeah.
We went with what we had last year. The devil you know versus the devil you don't. And in this case, everybody knew exactly what to do. Let's say there's no Ted Ginn there, or there's no Austin Carr, whatever it was, whomever it was, and you have Emmanuel Butler out there. Is Drew that comfortable? He's not looking at this guy at this point because one false step and that's the ball game.
Yeah, and look at the film breakdowns too. After those plays, the guys knowing where to get in position very quickly to spike the ball. A lot of teams struggle with that.
A lot of them get to 5 to illegal
one
procedure and a 10-second
guy's on the line,
runoff.
one guy's not. Look at the 3 guys on the left by the ball, all in the right position, quickly get the ball, spike it, and that made it only 2 seconds left after that play to kick that field goal. So,
yeah, right.
Moving to the LSU Tigers, again, another fantastic ball game on the road, a big test this time against Texas. We talked about last week, would this offense look as efficient and precise and productive against a team that was more of their caliber, but much more of a challenge, and certainly they passed that test.
573 yards total offense, 1 turnover, which I believe was a tip ball on a pick inside their own 10-yard line.
Yeah.
But my goodness, not only a great performance by the offense from a skill standpoint, from a precision standpoint, but my goodness, gut check moments.
Oh, boy.
Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games, and there's a list of Tigers who did that in an incredible atmosphere in 100-degree heat in Darrell K. Royal Stadium in Austin. To go in there and, technically we're the Texas State champs this week. So we took state. Probably going to get rings, banners, but put the patch on our Letterman's jackets. Mine still fits. And just tremendous performance by Joe Burrow. 471 yards, 4 touchdowns. The clutch play being the 61-yarder to Justin Jefferson on 3rd and 17. There's a litany of plays you could go through. We don't have the time, but 3 receivers with over 100 yards for the Tigers.
Fantastic.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you touched on a bunch of different things here. Number one, Joe Burrow was phenomenal. I mean, he was talking about Tom Herman gave him credit. He said he threw into accurate, tight windows, and he was aggressive. I mean, he pushed the ball down the field. The other thing I really liked was the tempo was good, as we saw once again, keeping those defensive guys on their heels. We talked about in the last couple of years, our frustration with this offense was that there was either run play or it was bubble screen or 40 yards downfield, right? They just didn't seem to have that intermediate passing game. What does that take? Well, it takes a lot of wide receivers who are very precise in their routes, can beat guys off the ball, and can get into the right place at the right time, right? And a quarterback who anticipates well and throws on time, right? And we've got really 3 polished receivers as we've had in a long time, and that really made the difference.
I think the difference of the addition of Joe Brady as the passing game coordinator, I attribute it to that because he's the only new member on the offensive staff, to my knowledge, where these guys are understanding and buying into the little things that make a difference in a game like that. It's a game of inches. They always say that.
Yeah.
And to see those receivers play the way they played, the back shoulder catch by Justin Jefferson in the end zone. Jamar Chase on the sidelines going up and get it. Terrace Marshall, that post route, snatching the ball out of the air.
Yeah.
You can see the skill set. You can see the way LSU physically imposes their will from not just a power standpoint, but a speed standpoint. So I thought that was fantastic. And the play calling is gutsy, and it's exciting.
Right,
the one bad defense LSU has had in the last 15 years or whatever was in 2013, and that was we lost so many people from 2012. The 2013 defense had a bunch of new players, bunch of new starters, but the offense had Zach Mettenberger, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., and Jeremy Hill. And we lost a game at Georgia early in the season, I think 45-41, something like that. But we went up and down the field against them. And I have to tell you, I'm pretty ticked off when the Saints or LSU lose, just the way we are. That was one of the least frustrating losses because it was exciting, fun, efficient offensive football.
Yeah, right.
And you didn't have that for so long. And congratulations to Les Miles for doing it at Kansas last night against Boston College and all that. But it would suck the life out of the stadium in wins and losses.
Right.
And you don't have that right now, and it's a whole different vibe around the LSU Tiger fan base.
Yeah.
And the whole nation's noticing now, too.
Yeah, you mentioned the Jamar Chase catch. You got a little shout out on the You Got Moss segment on ESPN prior to the game on Monday.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Nice.
So, and you look at the defensive side of the ball, it's kind of a different kind of a ball game. I'm going to give them a pass. I don't think we're as bad as we looked in this occasion. It was a hot night. They were physical in spots early in the game, made some stops down close to the goal line, so that was good. I really think one thing really set this team up for disaster in the second half defensively. They had that big, long drive, 19 plays, 86 yards. You got to get that's really the killer. That's really what wore this defense down. A lot of guys leaving to the sidelines with cramping and stuff. But that was really the one that turned things. Again, we mentioned third down with the Saints. 8 of 15 for Texas. It's too high a percentage rate for a good defense.
I agree completely. I think LSU had been playing pretty well defensively.
I
think it was 20-6 at one. We started out 20-7, started to pull away.
Yeah.
And had a couple of interference calls on that drive, a couple of third down breakdowns defensively that would have gotten them off the field.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you're on that field 19 plays in a row. Again, we go back to the Heat early in the season, and guess what? Their legs never recovered.
That's right, yeah, right.
But they gutted it out. They fought. Give them credit for that, and for the win. Like they had, I think, 6 sacks and 7 tackles for losses, or 5 sacks, 7 tackles for losses. So I thought that, ton of room for improvement.
Yeah.
The Stingley kid is real.
Oh, yeah, fantastic.
Christian Fulton played very well in spots, but a couple of a couple of interference calls against him. But a lot of room to grow for that defense. I think they'll learn from this, and I think you'll see him improve. I think they'll be one of the best defenses in the country by the end of the year.
Yeah, they had the fourth down stop in the red zone was great. They had another third down stop when it's 13-7 because Texas is trying to get a score before half at that time. They stopped on third down, get the ball right back, and get a touchdown. Gave us a big lead at the half of 20-7.
And I do want to say that give them credit too for the big fourth down stop. We call it twice. One was just a drop pass, but you held. Yeah. Somebody may yell at the receiver. Keontae Ingram dropped it. So
I wanted to mention also that you mentioned briefly that Burrow play. Look, the game was still in the balance. It's LSU up 6 points late in that game. It's third and 17, 18?
Third and 17.
Third and 17. And credit him. A lot of guys, again, were looking for a place to run to. He realized, look, I've got a blitz. I've got my guys one-on-one. If I can just find a little spot in the pocket, buy me another half a second, get this ball out there, he can't stay with my guy across. And he ran those crossing routes, medium-level crossing routes, 12, 15 yards down the field. Fantastic all game. And that was a huge play. Mike Cotillo called that one of the top 10 LSU plays of all time. It's not overstating it.
I agree 100%. Now, I want to give credit to somebody else on that play. Of course, to Joe Burrow. Yeah. I mean, you watched in slow motion the defensive tackle's fingertips graze his left shoulder as he stepped into the pocket to throw. First of all, this isn't breaking news here, but he's as gutsy and ballsy a player as I can recall. He happens to be a quarterback.
Yeah.
But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we talk about these freshmen running back. When are they going to contribute? We talked about this on the show last week.
Right.
They're not ready to pick up the blitz. It's the little things. It's not just opening my hands, getting the ball and going to the hole that's called. That's great. They're going to do fine at that.
Right.
But they don't know exactly what to look for in picking up the blitz. Clyde Edwards-Helaire does. And boy, he came in. Now look, it wasn't a fundamental textbook block. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But he sure got exactly where he's supposed to be. Through the inside linebacker who was blitzing up the middle off course. The guy left his feet. One of his legs flew out. He dove. Missed Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow steps up. Pumps the ball with Jefferson, who did the rest. Great run by Justin Jefferson, too.
Yeah, and you mentioned
a 2-point conversion to Jamar Chase. Not forget that.
Right, yeah.
A lot of pressure off the defense.
Right, yeah. And as you mentioned, with those running backs, it's not about a textbook block all the time. It's buying that one extra half second or whatever so he can
get in the way.
Let me ask you this, though. Do you think this new tempo is going to have an impact on the way this defense plays? I mean, it's easier to play defense when you have a better rest. Do you think because we're more of an up-tempo offensive team, it's going to make it tougher on our defense this year?
Well, they can't give up 19 plays drives on that side of the ball, first of all. They got to help themselves a little bit there. Yeah, it's going to have somewhat of an effect, but not as much as it would when you're playing, or if you're another. Look, LSU has the depth defensively to rotate guys in. That's how Ed Ogeron wanted to build this roster, and he's done that to a large part. So defensively, he feels like he's got 7 or 8 guys on that line that can come in. Yeah. Linebackers, you got enough guys that can play. Your starters are there, but you have Patrick Queen coming in. You have, and Damon Clark coming in on the inside. Andre Anthony can spell the guys on the outside. So you have enough of that front seven to move guys around. The secondary guys aren't getting pounded on as much, and you have at least depth within the safety room. The corners are we're a little thin at corner after the top three guys. Right. So do I think that it's going to have a big effect? It will have an effect, not as big as it would at most places, because they finally have the depth that they need in that front seven. Yeah.
Looking ahead, just quickly to next week, this week, of course, we're doing the Saturday morning coffee edition of Italian Sports Guys today. There you go. Take a sip of the car. We have Northwestern State next week tonight for the Tigers. Again, should be a little bit of a breather compared to Texas, of course. But the one thing that you have to guard against, of course, is I think of when Sean Payton tells the Saints, don't eat the cheese. Of course, meaning when the press starts pumping you up, don't start believing it because you set yourself up for a letdown. You look at Joe Burrow now, very much in the Heisman conversation already. You're hearing the pundits say that on a national narrative, of course. And also LSU getting a legitimate shot from all the pundits to be in the playoff now, because previously, if LSU won this game 17-10 or 24-17, they'd say, yeah, good win, but same old Tigers.
Great defense. Right? Great Tiger defense.
Great, same old Tigers, but they're going to be limited offensively when they get to the elite games. We're not hearing that now.
Well, two things about that. One, that's a spot-on assessment that LSU has shown, albeit 2 weeks in, that they have, everyone knows you always have the roster. Now they have a trigger man who can do it, and they have a system and a play calling where they can light up the scoreboard against good teams. Here's the thing with that. This is just my personal opinion. The front runner or the top contenders for the Heisman in the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season, much less 2, never win it. So drop that. Okay? And talking about now, well, is this the team to beat Alabama? I'm not talking about Tiger fans. I'm talking about College Game Day, which we have on in the background.
That's right.
Can this be the team that goes in the top? Man, forget that.
Right.
We haven't beaten them in 8 years, okay? Right. Let's not sit there and start measuring simply can we or can we not beat Alabama and lose 2 other games along the way. Right. You got a long way to go. That game's going to have to be played whether we've got 2 losses or we have none.
Yeah.
Okay? So forget about all the talk about Alabama, okay? Quite frankly, you want to pick that fight and tug on that tail right now? We've lost 8 in a row.
That's right.
So forget about that right now. We still have to play the game, and they still have to play us. Yeah. But forget about that. The Heisman talk, I love the fact that his name is getting mentioned. Let's not start saying he's a serious Heisman or he's a Heisman candidate or a front runner just yet.
Yeah, right.
Let's talk about it in week 10 when everybody wants a switch and they want the drama and they want to give it to somebody else.
That's right. Yeah,
it was Tua Tagovailoa's trophy to lose last year. Kyler Murray gets it. It was Peyton Manning's trophy to lose way back when. Charles Woodson get it. Yeah. Peyton Manning threw for 535 yards and 5 touchdowns in the game in week 10. But because he was the front runner all season long, he actually fell on the Heisman.
That's right. They're looking.
And that was against Kentucky.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Well, maybe a little Arch Manning will win when he gets to college and win the Heisman.
Looked good last night,
sure
huh?
Did, yeah. Moving to the Saints, the Rams, of course, no hype needed for this game. Everybody knows the national narrative and what happened last time, but that's behind us. These are 2 new teams in a new season.
That's over with.
Any thoughts on what it's going to be key for the Saints this week, Kyle?
It's going to be tough. Again, you're going to have to defend a multitude of wide receivers. Cooper Kupp is back for them, and he wasn't here in the NFC Championship game last year. We're not going to have the benefit of that noise. I still think the Saints fans will be louder than the Rams fans, even though it's in L.A. But you're not going to have all the noise and the headset issues that Jared Goff and Sean McVay had to deal with last year. So they're going to feel a little more comfortable and a little more at home. You got to stop the run. We can't give up 125 plus on the ground. I think we had 180 last week.
180 last week.
Yeah, you can't do that. You're in serious trouble. This offensive line is much better than the Texans had, so you're not going to sack Jared Goff more than likely. You're not going to get to him 5 times or 6 times or whatever we did. So I think the Saints have to control the ball a little bit more, rely more on our running game, which I think they're no Ndamukong Suh there this year. Aaron Donald was a little quiet in week 1. So I think the Saints have a chance. It's going to be a lower scoring game than a lot of people think, just my opinion.
Yeah. And before we wrap it up, this segment, of course, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Brian Check, Snyder State Farm, and also Luca Eats. Of course, get your pregame meal or get your tailgating catering ticket to go.
7329 Cone Street, corner of Cone and Lower Line, Uptown. Good for the Tulane home games or even the high school home games.
And Brian Check, Snyder State Farm, of course, all your insurance needs right there on North Causeway in Metairie. Just want to mention again, if you want our audio podcast, we do it on podbean.com. We also have a Facebook page, of course, where you're watching this. And also, we have a new YouTube channel, so ISG Sports on YouTube.
2 youths got a YouTube channel.
2 youths got the YouTube channel, so you got to subscribe there. You can find us all kind of places. We're kings of the multimedia world. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're global, prestige worldwide. I mean, we're getting things done.
So worldly, so welcome.
There you go.
That about wraps it up. We'll come back and we'll give our NFL playoff predictions. We are
the Italian Sports Guys.
Bada-Boom.
Bada-Bing.